So recently, and quite often in my lifetime, actually, I had always stopped and looked at the SNK art because of how unique and everything it is. And I have my own game that I'm working on, and I've been doing a lot of artwork for it. And the art looks cool on paper, but then when I go to color it, I always have trouble. And here's something I'm working on here now. So yeah, I know that I'm real. You might look like somebody that y'all know. But yeah, so I always run into this trouble of coloring because now I'm putting art into my game and I want it to look a certain way. So I'm working on that, trying to get better at that. And with all the SNK stuff that's been coming up here recently with Terry Bogard and a new game coming out next year, which is right around the corner, get ready. Um, the artwork of the game is something that is very unique. And I want to take a look at it. So this is going to be a two-parter now. Let me give credit where credit is due. The seller. Go ahead and subscribe to his channel. No, let me hit that subscribe now. He did a couple breakdowns on the artwork, and so I want to go over it myself. So here we go.
もう空手一番大事なのはね、目だよ。試合の時にね、相手が怖いからって言って顔をしたらね、殺されちゃう。絶対での目を見て、相手が
Watch enemies' eyes and moves.
相手は自分が怖い時は相手も怖い。相手が神様じゃない。自分が怖いなと思ったら相手も怖いよ。だからね、目をそらすっていうことはもうすでに負けだから。だからね、蹴るところまっすぐ見るようにして、目を大きく開いて。
Mas Oyama. Born Choi
Hold up.
Young-wei, 1923, in Zenra Hokudo, the former
1923,
province
man.
of Chosen in South Korea, was the founder of Kyokushin Karate. Kyokushin is the origin of full contact karate, and Oyama, often called its most influential figure. He would inspire a variety of media, some based on his own life, and his image, in turn, would ripple outwards to popular Japanese culture.
Heard about Bruce Lee, but you never heard about this dude.
Of the takes on Oyama is Capcom's Ryu, the broad-shouldered, minimalist martial artist. In artwork for the first two Street Fighter games, the stylization of this archetype is pretty clear. Ryu is grounded in reality, but there's still an exaggeration in his huge build. Only a few years later, in 1992, rival developer SNK would unveil Art of Fighting with their own take on Oyama. Takuma Sakazaki.
Did Feta Free come first, or was it Art of Fighting?
Mori, aka Shinkiro. The first time
his eyes and his
lay
artwork,
eyes on Shinkiro's artwork, there is something enrapturing about it. It feels real, but fantastical at the same time. There's an energy and liveliness to them, despite depicting a world that's recognizable. When it comes to music, don't Earth, Wind, and Fire and Boston make you feel the universe?
I know both of those songs, but gotta hear them.
Is that fantasy becomes energy. Shinkiro always wanted to be an artist, but was truly inspired to be an illustrator by the works of Noriyoshi Orai and Frank Frazetta. After landing a job at SNK following a manga publication, he would work there for over a decade before their bankruptcy, jumping over to Capcom, where he still contributes art to this day.
Yep, definitely remember that.
Includes several covers that show off a painterly style with lots of attention to fabric, lighting, and contrast between warm and cool colors. In many ways, it feels reminiscent of a general 80s anime and manga look.
What is that
However,
game?
It wouldn't be long before he fell into a distinct art style.
Definitely remember that. That was on the Super Nintendo cover.
When I look at Shinkiro's art, I am immediately drawn to his eyes.
Yeah.
Often, he uses a character's gaze to not only grab the viewer, but tell the story of the image. For instance, this classic drawing of King of Fighters Leona and Hydern. Leona's vision is focused, piercing from the page. Meanwhile, what Hydern's eyes lack in intensity, they make up for in wisdom. They
Hmm.
are slightly narrower, older, and one is missing entirely. From there, you might notice that he's clearly stooping down to get to her level,
Hmm.
that his shoulders are much broader than hers, and that her vest is just a little too big for her frame.
Hmm.
Without a single word spoken, without a solid background, without any context at all,
The gun
you
isn't pointed
understand the
straight either.
relationship
Kind of like
between these two.
he's a little
A much
off.
more direct example of the eyes is this image of Kyo facing off with Iori. In the middle are Nakoruru and Akari,
Huh.
with bigger, rounder eyes, two innocents caught up in the struggle.
Hmm.
The illustration also shows off his unique approach to detailing, because Shinkiro often chooses to outline only the edge of a shape. Kyo and Iori's chins are drawn, but the inner details, like jawline, the shape of their lips, the subtler musculature of their necks,
Okay.
is expressed with shading and highlighting. If we take a look back at his inspirations,
So let
there's
me pause that. So that's something to note. So he outlines the image, but all of the shading, the extra details, all the hard edges are there, but the details are shaded in.
clear through line, like Norioshi Orai's poster for The Empire Strikes Back. By expressing things like body shape and the folds of clothes through precise lighting, he's able to make each part of an abstract composition fit together.
Hmm.
This is merely imagery from the film, not a scene, and so
That's what
the
I love, when
scope
there's
and
no black
emotion are
lines.
more important to convey. Things like a character's environment can be implied for the purpose of
That's cool,
drawing
man.
the audience in. Take the most basic image, a close-up of a character facing straight ahead with no background. Shinkiro makes excellent use of contrast here. A blank white background broken by Kyo's dark hair and jacket, which themselves frame his light skin and headband. If you look even closer,
Well, I remember trying to
the
dress
dark
like
of
these
his
SNK
eyebrows
characters,
and the
man.
mascara-like shadows
Aori,
under
I
his
wanted that
eyes
hair,
make
boy.
their whites all the more attention-grabbing, and the dark irises pointed. There are at least 6 layers of black and white in this image, each of which draw you into the literal focal point of the piece, not to mention the fuzzy effect around Kyo, which gradually sharpens as you go inward, a
Hmm.
testament to his ability to do so much with so little. This piece is very similar, but adds color. There's now contrast, not just within a single character, but between two. The sunset tones on Kyo's side, not to mention his warmer complexion and hair.
So one thing I want to say is that all the artwork is good. I don't think all of it fit for it being a fighting game. Story wise, it told the stories deeply, but I don't know if all of it fit for the action of a fighting game. Let me know what y'all think if y'all watching this video.
Meanwhile, everything about Iori is cold, pale. One of his eyes is covered as if he's hiding something. I'm impressed by the way Shinkiro can express character in such minor ways, like this illustration of classic SNK villain Geese Howard, surrounded by 2 bodyguards and his
Classic
right-hand
dude.
man, Billy Kane.
Billy
You
Kane.
immediately understand how important he is. He's lit brighter than anyone else in the scene, making his skin and hair color pop out. His chair is a red so vivid that it makes his suit look even darker. Meanwhile, Billy is dressed up, but still dons his trademark bandana.
I hope he get his old outfit back
It's just
in the
enough
new
of
game.
a mismatch to make him stand out and imply the kind of setting that he inhabits. I've always felt like many of the SNK fighters took place in a kind of 70s or 80s urban martial arts movie, and this illustration looks like a poster straight out of one. I also like the way that he's standing, giving the side eye to the viewer. There's a kind of casual threat in the way that he holds himself that distinguishes him from Geese's gaze, a smug superiority. Everything that Shinkiro would do here.
Yeah, he kind of looks like Geese Howard is looking like, these are my men. Billy is more like, I got his back, but I got my own agenda as well, kind of,
Is a precursor to this piece, the cover of King of Fighters 97. One of the things I find most impressive about Shinkiro
I never liked
is
the
the way he
belts
can take
that they wear around their
exaggerated
neck.
character designs and not only make them solid, but place them in equally solid locations. Every character in this scene tells a story, not only in their placement, but their body language and their eyes. Iori faces away from everyone, not looking to the audience, but the ground, suggesting his single-minded focus on destroying Kyo alone. Kyo himself looks towards Iori, aware of the threat he poses, but he doesn't actually face him. There's no real hate for him. He's simply preparing for the fight. Shingo admires Kyo from out of his sight, a reference to his fanboy obsession with him. Billy relaxes against the dumpster. Much like Kyo, Billy is a delinquent with a heart of gold who cares for his friends and family, but his love of easy money and entanglement with the criminal world puts the two at ends with each other. They're close in nature, but facing opposite directions. Blue Mary stands out from the rest of the characters. She sees her entry in the tournament as just another job, and doesn't have any complicated feelings about any of it, so her stare follows off-screen to other things. Meanwhile, Chris stares off nonchalantly,
Little beast.
a nod to the surprise twist that this innocent young boy becomes the host for the ultimate evil. 97 is considered by fans to be one of the darkest entries in the series, the culmination of the most ambitious storyline in fighting games at the time. This cover captures that tension. Chaos is just around the corner, like standing in a dingy back alley, listening to the trembling of engines on the street. Many of Shinkiro's most iconic
Definitely
works
remember that
from
one.
the post-SNK era would be large ensemble pieces for Capcom that resemble his inspirations in Ori and Frazetta. But I'm especially fond of his
So I like
quieter
how
scenes. Take
let me
many
come back
of
here.
Shinkiro's most iconic.
I like how he does a awesome job with all showcasing all of the characters and then putting some of the main characters right there smack dab in the middle, and they always stand out. Like the Samurai Showdown art he did, this next one coming up.
Works from the post-SNK era would be large ensemble.
Yeah, see, he always he does an awesome job about putting characters here, then he puts characters in the foreground, and then he puts a main character in the middle. Never mind Chung Li right there. But I wonder why he chooses to put certain characters in the background. We have the why. Is this Street Fighter 4? Who is this?
Ensemble pieces for Capcom that resemble his
Street Fighter
inspirations
4.
in
Who is that?
Ori and Frazetta. But I'm especially fond of his quieter scenes. Take this image. Iori, whom he usually depicts as stone-faced or wrathful, is framed differently. The time is unclear. It's either late night or early morning.
There's no black
That
outlines in
light
this one.
could be a street lamp or the sun rising through the fog. It looks cold and bright. Even in the after hours, Iori is notably darker than everything else, not to mention his bright red hair separates him from the rest of the color palette. I like that the milk carton is also red to make the visual association between him and the act stronger. For once, we see the
I remember
consequences
that
of
one.
Iori's angry, loner nature. He's just that, alone. But there's a ray of kindness in him. This was a piece for Metal Slug 3, of the gang finding that a mouse has nested in some kind of artillery of theirs. Every character's expression tells you so much about them. Eri has a gentle surprise compared to Tama's more comedic sunglass rays. Marco seems entertained, taking it in stride, while Theo can't even be bothered and is inspecting the inside. Metal Slug is known for non-stop action and huge explosions, so Shinkiro drew a scene that's just a slice of life. It's casual and
Hey, he looks like, what is it? What is it? He's like, probably seen it first. He's coming in late, but just aggravated by everybody else who's going to turn away quickly. And he's like, what are you looking at? He almost looked kind of scary with his eyes.
sweet, kind of nostalgic, like
Like he came
a
in late.
memory these characters would chuckle about years later. This cover for King of Fighters 98
Duck
amuses
King.
me a lot. 98 was a break from the storyline and just tried to stuff as many characters as possible into what they called a dream match to celebrate the conclusion of the Orochi saga, the first 4 games covered. Fittingly, all of the characters are seen relaxing in a backyard, poolside, dressed up and chatting. It's like they're actors at a wrap party. There's a lot to learn from the period where his style was evolving. A common joke was that he suffered from same face syndrome, or more specifically, that all his characters looked like George Clooney. Take this piece for KOF 96, for instance. Now, if you were to tell me that this was traced, I'd probably believe you. This image looks a little off, because all of the characters' faces are turned directly to the camera despite them being at different angles, and
This is
they're
not his
outlined
greatest work.
almost as if he drew the bodies and heads separately. Certainly not his best work, but if you look closer, you can see the hallmarks of his art taking shape. Notice the difference in body between Mai and King, the former sporting a smoother figure, while the latter has a subtle tone to her. If we fast forward to KOF 98, he's
That
got
was
the
definitely
hang of
bad.
drawing unique faces and is well on his way to
Chorizo.
mastering that attention to muscle and fat. Consider the difference between Blue Mary and Leona in KOF 99, or Takuma and Joe. That style would further
I do wonder
blossom
how he
into
doing his
work
poses
for
though.
both
Is he like
SNK
doing
and
these maybe?
Capcom, as well as his ability to tell
That's
stories.
dope.
This artwork for Resident Evil 3 is especially powerful, not depicting any of the game's main characters, but the response of a normal, everyday person whose life was turned upside down. You can even make out where tears have left trails on her face, and the haunting resignation in her gaze.
Never seen that pic nowhere.
It's rare that a single artist becomes synonymous with an entire company, especially one who doesn't even take much of an interest in that company's product. By his own admission, Shinkiro doesn't care much for games, and yet he was able to become the face of SNK, or more accurately, draw its face. In an interview for the 10-year anniversary of King of Fighters, he expresses some surprise that it's lasted so long and attributes its success to its visuals as well as its fascinating characters. Shinkiro's pieces are more than the sum of their parts. They're fantasies, grounded in reality, made flesh and bone with careful strokes of pen and ink. The energy
He looks
of
small
those
right there,
stories
Maximum.
is spoken, as always, in the eyes.
Here comes the daredevil.
Let me show. So,
Over.
definitely subscribe to the channel. want to know some of the art.
Games
It's
made.
like this one is very, very powerful. I know I said this was going to be a two-parter, but I was just kind of captivated by it. Some Little Rock, but yeah, like this is really cool. This ain't even this. This helps with like game development because again, this character is not in Resident Evil, but he's just drawing like the world, like what people's going through and everything. And this is strikingly very, very sad. You know, very, very sad. Um, have this one here. Notice like the contrast, like just two colors, man. I mean, black and white at a glance, but like look at the striking, like the color in it. Like you said, like the outline is blurred, but as you go in, it gets clear. Like it's super cool. And he looks like really young right there. This one right here is really, really powerful too. Like Heaterin is always a dope character, and Leona is too. I didn't know that they had like history together with each other. I knew they was on the team, but I didn't know like he raised her and everything else. Like she was a soldier when she was little, and it's definitely like looks dead at you. So yeah, so there's a lot here, man. With the Capcom Fighting Collection coming out, the Fighting Collection 2, there's gonna be a lot of his art in there. Definitely check it out, man. And if you're an artist, like Shinkiro is one of the artists that you definitely want to stutter, study. So I'm gonna get back to work here. Got some artwork I need to do my own self. I just want to kind of get inspired by the greats because I want my art to be great as well. Peace. Get that peace sign in there.
Get in there!